famously ugly shirt that I got for like $4. Yeah, one of those lightweight nylon shirts. Good for wearing when it's really hot outside. However, I'm too embarrassed to wear this outside. I'm not embarrassed enough to put it in a video, though, apparently. By the way, this Sunday, I'm driving down to Florida, and I'm going to load up my truck with important items, basically clothing and some knickknacks, out of the Florida home. I can't afford to keep that, so we're selling the Florida home. I'll be gone from this Sunday until basically the following Saturday, so that's where I'll be. I have no internet access down there except through tethered through my phone, so I won't be able to do live streams at that time, but I hope to upload a video or two, so that's where I'll be. I put up the home in Florida for sale, and you know, it's a very nice house. It's in Fort Myers, so that's where I'll be. It's 1,000 miles away. I really dread going there. I've actually expended an enormous amount of mental energy about free energy. And of course, when people say free energy, they always use the term incorrectly. There's a lot of free energy out there. It just has to be tapped off of different places. True definition or denotation of free energy is a reference to tethering out power, manifesting it without any kinetic input, because all so-called AC generators aren't actually generating power, they're manifesting power. But the way they do it, and I tell people this, a simplex AC generator is an inside-out magnet. Walter Russell hints at that in one of his diagrams. He calls it his optic dynamo generator. Should be actually called a vortex generator. There's his little diagram, which I'd like to show you here in a second and talk about it, but there's another thing. There's been a few people mention the exact same thing as the power source for some of these field propulsion craft, because there's no form of explosion tech. And explosion tech is Stone Age technology. All rocket fuel, whether it's solid rocket boosters or liquid oxygen or liquid hydrogen, all of it is should be called chemical propulsion. Chemical propulsion versus field propulsion. You know, we kind of evolved, so to say, in our type of exotic kinetic tools. You know, we've evolved from clubs and bows and arrows to obviously something infinitely more powerful. We could actually talk about fission or fusion reactions, you know, setting off a 100 kiloton, you know, hydrogen mushroom cloud. You know, that's certainly an evolution from bows and arrows to a different type of tech. And every time I see a rocket, as impressive as they are, of course they're hideously dangerous, it's just chemical propulsion. There is no, and there's absolutely zero debate about this by anybody with a half a brain, there is absolutely no way in heck that there is any sort of chemical propulsion that could manifest enough power to power the field necessary for so-called anti-gravity craft to work. The several people that have actually witnessed the I'd like to actually, too, talk about the consequences of free energy. It is out there. There's a lot of really valid reasons for why they don't want humanity to have it. The people that have actually been witness to this backwards engineered technology refer to it as a monolithic block with a sliding mechanism of sorts, to whatever degree they actually explain it. It's able to manifest nearly bottomless amounts of power. You couldn't build a craft large enough, whether it be on Earth or in space, to actually power a anti-grav or field propulsion craft. It's just impossible. You know, 99% of the craft would have to be the chemical reactive fuel, and even then, it still couldn't power the craft. So the only way a so-called anti-grav or UFO technology, which of course is a meaningless term, when we say UFO, it's kind of like saying the word ghost. It's an incredibly loaded word. Of course, a ghost is just a disembodied being. When someone says UFO, it just means it's unidentified. 99% of these, if not all of them, are of course, I don't know if they're backwards engineered craft, but apparently they are. But most all of these that we actually see are people are witness to, and there's some really great footage from infrared from fighter jets that have been chasing these things, and they actually change the wavelength in which they're actually filming the craft, and you can actually see the coronal vectors on the craft, and actually as the craft shifts, the actual coronal vectors, the lines, actually change on it. And this is just a simplex field propulsion craft. We can actually speculate about that all day long, but one thing, using retroductive logic, that's undeniable is that these field propulsion craft, necessitatively, there's absolutely no alternative for that, work off of, don't talk about magic element number 135 or whatever it is, have to work off of a free energy device. And that free energy device, from the monolithic observations and declarations that are made about this backwards engineered craft, says that it's nearly a bottomless source of energy, and it has a sliding metal shield over it, which apparently, from what they indicate, is the amount of energy that can be actually tapped off of it. Imagine, if you will, and I've thought of different ways to do this because every magnet has a phase disparity of 1 to phi, that we could actually build a monolithic block with absolutely no moving parts in it at all, essentially one part of an embedded atomic structure, and I don't know of what element. It could be that element after all. I don't want to poo-poo the so-called magic element what's-his-face talks about, and I know his name, I just don't want to mention his name. That this monolithic block would have a geometric pattern of different phases of this atomic structure embedded in a monolithic block, such that it actually sets up a disturbance for the manifestation of power. An AC generator, which of course does not generate power, it actually manifests power, is an arch form. What do I mean by an arch form? It is a specific geometry that enables, through, unfortunately, kinetic input, to manifest power. Of course, there's no conversion of the kinetic input at all in the case of hydroelectric energy or wind or steam. There is no conversion of that kinetic energy into the manifestation of electricity. Absolutely none. I mean, that's not even up for debate. Anybody that knows anything about generators will tell you that. It's like, well, if there's no direct conversion of energy from kinetic input, then where's the power coming from? And if they actually had a half a brain, and they don't, they would say, well, a certain condition is set up in the arch form that is the so-called AC generator for the manifestation of power. And to put it simply, as I've told people, and this is true, that an AC generator, specifically a power manifester, is an inside-out magnet. That being the case, this means that a geometric arch form with a stepped phase disparity of the atomic structure in what has been reported in these backwards engineered craft is a monolithic block with an apparent atomic structure in there that sets up a disturbance of the ether. They used to talk about churning up the ether from these large hydroelectric generators up at Niagara Falls, churning up the ether. That's exactly what it does, and of course that's how power is manifested. Of course, the falling water turns the arch form, that is the super enormous hydroelectric generators. And I've been to the Hoover Dam, actually. It's really fascinating. You got to take this elevator down, you're actually able to see the generator room. It's really impressive. You take an elevator way, way down, and you get to nearly the bottom of the Hoover Dam, and it's all really fascinating. And it's just falling water to turn an AC generator, which sets up a condition for churning up the ether, and therefore the manifestation of electricity. I'd like to talk about Walter Russell's optic dynamo generator here in a second. What it really should be called is a vortex generator. To call it an optic dynamo generator is quasi-disingenuous, but if that's what they want to call it, as Walter Russell called it, that's perfectly fine. He reports that it actually did work, and there's pictures of the commutator on that. Well, let's talk about, very quickly here, the consequences of free energy. The consequences of free energy and why they don't want us to have it is they would lose, just think about this for a second, you'll know that I'm 100% right. They would lose absolutely all control over society. With every house having a free energy motor, All you have to do is set the lever for how much power you need to power your entire house. All your power tools, all your lighting, all the lighting to growth stuff in your greenhouse, to charge your vehicle or actually stick one in your vehicle more appropriately, to go anywhere. People could have, the real reason why those giant RVs, is basically a house on wheels is because, they get like, what, 5 or 10 miles to the gallon? Well, imagine a free energy generator. Everybody could have an RV. You could just have one of those little generators. It would power everything. We wouldn't have to worry about how many miles we went. We have the ability to travel anywhere with no cost other than the maintenance of upkeep due to road wear. The governments would lose absolutely all control. You could take that power and power your tractors, so you don't have to worry about anything. Gardening, lighting, power tools, all your electrical needs for your car, your house, everything. You know what else that also means? That means free energy for water electrolysis. All battery-powered cars would vanish overnight, because then water electrolysis would become free. And of course the car is burning hydrogen, which is converted right back to water. So the water electrolysis is completely 100% free. Every car and everybody would have a hydrogen compressor in their backyard. One to split the water and the other one to compress the hydrogen. So every day you stick in a new hydrogen fuel cell in your car. And you have a spare 2 or 3 tanks in your car, but you can pick up free ones along the road. You could take, why would you need to really work anymore? Imagine robots that would take care of all your manual labor, and that's already here. We know it, you know it. We've seen some of the really advanced robots. Why would you have to do anything anymore? With AI and robots, which are already here, the robots aren't perfectly here, but they're really very, very, very close, and free energy, you could sit in your butt all day long, which is what people want to do. Your robots that are working off of free energy, they could be powered off of hydrogen too, or they could work off of batteries. But anyway, we have limitless free energy. You can tell your robot to go in the back and do all the gardening, and at night you could turn on the grow lamps and grow whatever you wanted. Why would you have to work anymore? Like, hey, robot, go do my manual labor at construction site ABCXYZ. They wouldn't even need you anymore. When you have free energy, people don't realize the implications of free energy. The implications of free energy is breaking the shackles that bind everybody. You know the limitations that keep people starving and thirsty, and a lot of it is energy-based. Imagine all transport becoming free overnight. They'd all work off of hydrogen, or they could work off basically anything. With free energy, it doesn't matter if they work off of hydrogen or they work off of the upcoming titanium batteries, which have near instant recharge and they last for like 80 years. It doesn't matter what they run off of. Who cares what it runs off? And the power is free. The implications are losing all control. And so, we need to get that information out there, the free energy. Well, the answer is yes. And I'm not taking the side of the evil Hydra and the evil GOVT. But looking at it from their perspective, which I have no love for them at all, they would lose all control. And that is the very, 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 very last thing that they want. Why would you rely on anybody? You got robots and you got AI, the robots running off of AI. You got unlimited free energy. What do you need to do anything anymore? Have a little garden, robots tend to the garden. The power is free. You want to take a long vacation in your super giant RV? Well, we don't have to worry about, how much energy it takes anymore, do we? I'm going to go to Florida for a month in my giant RV. Runs off of hydrogen. You could power the engine off of hydrogen. Have the free energy device separate out the water molecule. Burn the hydrogen, which of course, when you burn it, it just makes more water. It recollects the water in a drip collector that goes back in the tank that, with the free energy device, gets converted back again and split from hydrogen and oxygen. It's an endless loop. They can't have that. That is the last thing that they want for you. What was it Westinghouse said when power came out? It said this is totally useless unless we could stick a meter on it and bill people for it. Did you know that? Did you know that's what Westinghouse said? You know, until we can devise a way, and then everybody started working on a meter. Everybody went full throttle on making a power meter. What's the use of power and getting it to people unless we can stick a meter on it and then charge them? Well, with free energy, no one would be any meters anymore. You could give the giant middle bird to the GOVT. It's like, you know, I don't need you anymore. I got 2 robots that run off of free energy. I could travel all over the world in my RV. Doesn't cost anything other than food. My robots can grow my food. I don't need you for food anymore. So I don't need you for food anymore. I don't need you for power anymore. You know, I could have the robots run off of free energy to build my house. The only thing I have to do is buy like 2 acres of scrub land somewhere. Then the robots running off of free energy could 3D print with free power, of course. A house. This house is already being 3D. The possibilities are so bottomless, it's mind-boggling. And people have been thinking about this now for decades, that free energy devices have been out there. So all control would be lost. It would be a good thing for humanity, but that's not what they want for you. Anyway, we have to get away from explosion tech. They know it's coming. Anybody with a brain knows that it's coming. Unfortunately, there's not many people out there with a brain. But currently we're using chemical propulsion, and we have to switch to fuel propulsion. Everything at NASA is Stone Age tech, chemical propulsion. It's all garbage. It's been obsoleted decades ago. But they don't want you to know that because the implications are too far-reaching. This is Walter Russell about his optic dynamo generator, which should be called a vortex generator. It is needless to say that such a simple, mobile, light, and powerful producing machine would not only affect the whole world's economy, but would be the first step in bringing abundance of the necessities of human existence to every nation on the face of the earth. This is, by the way, this is a diagram of his dynamo. Yep. And I've been talking about this for years now, before actually seeing this in one of his notes, is that human beings' power generator is inside out. Basically, it's an inside-out magnet. Russell kind of says the same thing. Brilliant minds think alike, apparently, obviously. Russell dynamo obeys nature, he says. In every dynamo of nature, its armature revolves upon the plane of its equator, i.e. the plane of inertia. Our man-made dynamos reverse this principle. They are made to spin in the planes of their poles. Man's dynamo violates nature, and he has a little diagram of the arch form, which is a geometry. It's a geometry for the operation of fields, the manifestation of electricity. And it should be called a vortex commutator or vortex generator. You take your pick. I actually, based upon his diagrams, and I've seen 5 diagrams of the device, and I've thought about it endlessly. It's a vortex generator or a vortex commutator. Pretty amazingly simple. The optic dynamo generator, what I call the vortex generator, is generated by the establishment, of course, of ether tension, which leads to the variation of the magnetic flux over time, denoted by phi over T, which, of course, represents the potential value, i.e. ether torsion. This voltage, of course, is necessitatively calculated according to the Faraday's theory of ether, which remains valid, of course, in all forms of electrical theory today. Essentially, this vortex commutator consists of 2 opposing coils resembling 2 funnels, vortex generator, facing each other below where the material is required to create this ether tension generator. This flow of ether, of course, is inherent in the dielectric material of the structure as directed by the design of Walter Russell's coil. This maintains a steady potential. And Russell reports that he actually sent this device off to the government, and that's where it ended. And I'll give you one guess as to why that's where it ended. I can take your pick. Calling it an optic dynamo generator is misleading to people. Anyway, the government does not want to lose all control. I mean, just absolutely no way, no how. There has to be an end to chemical propulsion, which is everything today. Gasoline, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, chemical reaction, chemical propulsion. Everything is fuel propulsion tech for the future. The government already has that. That's not my belief or opinion or feeling or speculation. It's a fact. We have seen 100% verified multispectral footage, and you can actually find out. Just type in fighter jet UFO footage. They scan through different frequencies of the infrared spectrum, actually through the electromagnetic spectrum, both visible, near infrared, far infrared. They have UV forward looking, I believe, also. Some of these advanced fighter aircraft that were told to chase after it. When the craft actually changes vectors, you can actually see the coronal discharge actually changing its pattern. This is field propulsion tech. All chemical reaction propulsion is Stone Age garbage by comparison. The last thing that they want is for that to get out. That's the last. They would lose all control. It would all be lost. It's just a good thing. People in control, the one thing they want most of all is to stay in control. And if free energy gets out there, it will all fly away like flatulence in the wind. I'll be gone. You got no control over me anymore. I got a free energy device. Power my entire house and my children and my grandchildren and my great-great-grandchildren. It has no moving parts. It is a monolithic block which sets up a phase disparity to churn up the ether. That's all an AC generator does, and that's what the gods of field theory themselves, their own words. Talk about the giant generators, for example, at the Niagara Falls, churning up the ether. That's all this does. The difference being it is a different arch form that doesn't have a kinetic input for churning up the ether. Just think about the fact that there is absolutely zero conversion between the kinetic input to the power manifestation, i.e. the electricity from a so-called generator. Have you ever thought about that fact? That's not my opinion that it's that way. It is that way. Do you really think like wind is being transformed into electricity in the case of a wind generator? If you do, you are not very bright. Actually, you're way worse than not very bright. I'm going to start packing to go to Florida. I don't want to drive 1,000 miles, but it is what it is. What it is. I got to sell the house in Florida, so I got to get some stuff out of there. Mostly just knickknacks and some clothing. Oh well. I hope you like these videos. I'll check you in live stream. I was in live stream last night, a really late one. I was in there for 3.5 hours. Unscheduled live stream. It was a good live stream. It seems like the impromptu live streams that I don't normally do are always more lively than the regular scheduled live streams. Well, me and my ugly shirt will catch you in Florida. If you ever like these videos or want to contact me, my information is below. Any donations always warmly welcome. Lux e Veritas. Goodbye.